Good afternoon, everyone. So Vladimir Putin has apologized for the Azerbaijan Airways incident. That's all I'm going to say at this point. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to show you guys some mainstream media articles. We're going to talk about it a little bit, and I'm just going to call it now. This is how this conflict is going to turn from a proxy war to a hot war where NATO is in direct conflict with the Russian forces. So let's just get onto it, guys, because I know your time's valuable. Right, where are we? Let's just share this. So Putin apologizes for tragic incident involving Azerbaijan Airlines plane. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Saturday, so today, apologized to Ilham Aliyev, the president of Azerbaijan, for what the Kremlin said was a tragic incident in Russian airspace involving the Azerbaijani Airlines plane that crashed. So they're calling it a crash now, on the 25th of December. The Kremlin said that the aircraft attempted to land in Grozny. Ukrainian drones were attacking Russian, and Russian air defenses repelled the attacks. During this time, Grozny, the town of Mozdok, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce that word, were being attacked by Ukrainian combat drones, and Russian air defense was repelling these attacks. The Kremlin said Putin told the president without saying that Russian air defense hit the plane. So reading between the lines, guys, is there any pictures? Reading between, in fact, let me, let's play this video actually. So, right, So these strike marks here are consistent with what you would find on a surface-to-air missile system. Now, surface-to-air missile systems, contrary to popular belief, they're not accurate enough to directly hit an aircraft. So what they do is they have an area of margin of error, which means that when they get to a certain distance of said aircraft, they will detonate their warhead, and shrapnel goes everywhere in the hopes that that will take out some critical part of the aircraft. Now, what are we saying this is from? Are we saying this is from bird strike? Like, realistically, that there? Are we saying that's from a bird strike? I don't know. Maybe I'm not an expert in ballistics, or maybe I've not got any experience in military. But that, to me, looks like shrapnel. Yeah, I mean, there's not really much you can say about this. It's, it's pretty much conclusive that there's some strike there. In fact, this shape here, this shape here is actually consistent with a Buck, with the shrapnel from a Buck missile system. So I'll try and get that picture in the thumbnail somehow. But can you see here how you could almost see this would be like an hourglass shape? If you look at, in fact, I might do, no, I'll keep going on this. So you can see here how this looks like an hourglass shape. Now, I would say that, in fact, I know that the shrapnel that's inside a Buck missile system is kind of like a H on its side. So that's the strike pattern that you get. Again, that's just my analysis and my speculation right now. Yeah, I mean, there really isn't any. I mean, how else could this have been caused? Realistically, how else could this have been caused if not from shrapnel? Again, look at the. Yeah, it's. Yeah, right. We're just going to leave this video there. It's pretty conclusive in itself. So what we've got there is Vladimir Putin coming out, and I read you guys a statement that. What we have now, and I'm calling this is how this hot war is going to start. It's going to start by accident. So can you imagine such a scenario whereby the Ukrainians have started to attack a Russian, the Ukrainians are attacking the Russian Navy somewhere. And those drones are going in and they're striking, and Russian air defense is on high alert and it's taking down these drones. Can you imagine then if a NATO aircraft with personnel was flying in and around that area? That would be identified as a target and it would be taken down. We can see it here that these things are happening, and they're happening in real time. So that's the risk that we are running right now. And in that context, like, really, who's to blame? You can't blame the Ukrainians. They're they're in a war, and their targets are their targets. The Russians, they're being attacked. They're defending their ships. But the context of this is still going to be the same. You're going to get potentially a downed NATO aircraft with pilots inside, with crew. Once those guys go down and they send that Mayday out, the rules of engagement, I would suspect, and obviously I've got no inside information on the rules of engagement in this conflict, although I would say a lot of red tape has been removed, and it would be the case that, right, okay, if you get fired at by a Russian ship, then you can fire back. Or if you get fired at by any Russian system, or anyone in general, you guys can fire back. And the problem here, it becomes very apparent because we're dealing with lots of different languages, lots of different rank structures, lots of different command structures. So I don't think that the Ukrainian communication system will be able to communicate to such a wide level that if the Ukrainians put an airstrike in on ship X or facility X that is, that has NATO aircraft flying around it, then there may be a failure in communications. There may be a failure in frequency, in crypto. They may be sent on a different encryption, and passage of information. If anybody, if you guys have, when you're doing military operations, these things happen, and they happen more often than you would think, whereby Alpha team is on a different frequency to Bravo team. And it's just one of those things that in the orders, it came out and somebody wrote down a wrong frequency. There's lots of these instances going back through time. And these things happen by accident. And remember, I'm calling it right now, guys, okay? This hot war is going to start by accident. And it's going to be something like this, like the Azerbaijan incident, where the Russians are under attack, so their air defense systems are deployed. And just by luck or unluck, whichever way you want to look at it, there's going to be a NATO aircraft flying close to that. It may be one of these surveillance aircraft. It could be anything really. But the Russian air defense would see this as an active threat, and they would fire their air defense at this system. Once that's taken down, there's pretty much no way you can go back after that. It's all well and good apologizing, the Russians coming out and saying, "Oh, we're sorry about this. We're sorry about this." What we've seen is, and again, whether you trust them or not, the perception is that the Russians are not to be trusted. Now, the flip side of that coin is that from the Russians' perspective, NATO are not to be trusted. And these lines of communication are pretty much severed now between East and West. And as both sides build up their tinderboxes, the tiniest spark, the tiniest accident is just going to drag everyone into this global conflict. And I keep saying this. When this happens, it's going to happen fast. And I'm going to say this now. I'm going to go out on public record and I'm going to call it now, guys, okay? This will happen by accident. Obviously, in the future, when we look back at this, when we look back through history textbooks, when children are reading about how World War III started, the official date, because obviously, if you guys look back at the Second World War, you could argue that started in 1936. But the official date, whenever this happens, kids in the future are going to be reading in their textbooks that this was started by a Russian system took out a NATO aircraft. And I do think that's what it's going to be. A Russian air defense system is going to take out a NATO asset. It's going to be by accident. They're going to be under attack at the time by Ukrainian drones or similar. And they're just going to, they're going to be trying to repel that attack. But it's not going to matter because history, I think it was Winston Churchill who said, history will be kind to me because I intend to write it. Remember, history is always written by the victor. Anyway, guys, I just thought I'd get that out there and throw that out there. The gist of this video is Vladimir Putin's apologizing. I've shared the article with you for the Azerbaijan Airlines incident. They're calling it an incident. They're calling it a crash. I think we know what happened. And also, I'm calling it now, this, the hot war where we've got green NATO fighting Russian green Russian forces is going to start by accident. And I think this is how it's going to start. It's going to start with Russian air defense taking down a NATO aircraft. It will be by accident, but the NATO will respond. It's going to be, and it will happen quickly, guys. Anyway, that's it, guys. I'm going to Mag to Grid. I'll get you guys another video later.